Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching a special broadcast here on DD India. I have with me a very special guest, Ambassador Riad Abbas of Syria, to talk about Syria-India relations and other regional and global issues of interest or concern to both Damascus and New Delhi. Ambassador Abbas, thank you and welcome.
You are welcome.
Ambassador Abbas, let's start with Syria-India ties. How would you describe the bilateral ties between Syria and India today?
As you know, my friend, since the independence of our both country, we have a cordial relation, Syria and India. They have similar position in international arena and international organization, and we look forward to enhance this relation. During the crisis, we highly appreciate Indian stand who support Syria in international arena by political way. This position or this stand who impose on against any external intervention, execute the aspiration of Syrian people, and solution has to be between Syrian negotiated on the table in Syria. This position we highly appreciate from our government, from our people. This on political way. In economical way, India supports Syria a few years ago for some medicine for our people and some food for Syrian people inside Syria and outside Syria under the umbrella of United Nations outside Syria. And a few years ago also India, Mr. Modi ji initiative 1,000 scholarship for Syrian students. They came here to India and they continue their study. And when they finish, they will go back to Syria to help our government, our people to reconstruct our country. India has a strong voice in international arena, and we look forward to be more and more, and we look forward also to see India a permanent member in the Security Council, because India is the land of peace, the principle of NDG for peace spirit from this land all over the world. If any country do like India, there is no problem in the earth. And as you know, India is the largest democracy in the world, and the real democracy. We don't believe in Western democracy or American democracy. The real democracy is here. If any country would like to learn the democracy, they should come here and do it. That is why I said for you, some student here will be a candidate in the member of parliament in Syria in May, coming May.
Ambassador Abbas, as you mentioned, you spoke about bilateral ties, how India had supplied some medicines to Syria, food to Syria, and also given scholarships to Syrian students. Now, in any bilateral relations, the people-to-people ties is the bedrock, the foundation of a good relationship. In that context, we've seen many personnel exchanges between Syria and India. Many Syrian diplomats have visited India, New Delhi, at the Foreign Service Institute for training purposes. And we also know about a young Syrian boy, a footballer, who is playing in the Indian Football League as well. So, how would you view these developments, the diplomats who come for training and also Syrian students, as you mentioned, especially the Syrian footballer who is playing in the Indian Soccer League?
This, I will tell you openly, this belongs to the confidence between the both countries. For our government, never send our student officially to, for example, to our enemy, to colonialism state. Because of big confidence with India, we send our diplomat to get training here in India. More than 100 diplomats they came to India during a few years ago till now to get their training in FSI here under the umbrella of Ministry of External Affairs. We highly appreciate. They got their training and they went back to Syria, and most of them now spread in our embassy outside, and one of them now here in our embassy. They came to our embassy. And as you know, India is a freedom country, open mind. Really, India is an incredible India. Who came to India, he cannot leave India, I will tell you openly. And our students are happy here in India. And that is why we see some students prove their hopes here in India in science, in sport, in music, and we look forward to enhance this relation, especially in culture also. And we request if we can bring more and more Syrian students to get their study here in India and go back to help our government to rebuild Syria.
In fact, Ambassador Abbas, many people say that Indian films, Bollywood as some people call it, is very popular in your part of the world.
Yes, Mr. Ramesh, Indian film is very popular in Syria. It's besides Syrian film. If you go to any family in Syria, you see the TV. If not in Syrian film, especially in Indian film. And all our people and all our educated people follow the Indian film, and there is well-known actor in Syria like Amit Shah in the past, Shah Rukh Khan and Kareena Kapoor, for example. That's in my mind. And there is many culture exchange between the Ministry of Education and HRD Ministry here, and under the umbrella of ICCR.
Right. Ambassador Abbas, we've seen the conflict in Syria start in 2011, so it's been nearly 1 decade, nearly 10 years of unrest and bloodshed and conflict in Syria. But now the focus has shifted to post-war reconstruction, and Syria is looking for allies and partners to help in the reconstruction effort inside Syria. So in that context, do you see a scope for collaboration between the two governments in Syria and India, and also the private sector participation in your country?
Yes, if you allow me to give you a small briefing about the political situation in Syria after 2011. Our Syrian people and government since 9 years ago, they are suffering. They have been suffering from a war imposed in Syria by colonialism state to control the national resources in Syria. Not for political issue, not for reforms, not for democracy, I'll tell you openly. They send more than 300,000 mercenaries across the border into Syria through Turkish border. That is mean we are suffering from cross-border terrorism since 9 years ago. Our army defeat those terror groups by Russian support, our allies' support, and Iranian expert support, and we defeat them. Now they are face to face with Turkish army and American army, and the aims of Turkish to rebuild or revive the autonomous emperor in Middle East, because the president of Turkey is honorary president of Muslim Brotherhood Party. You have seen what happened in under the name of Arab Spring. They changed all secular regime by radical regime belong to racism of Islam. Syria is a secular country. We defeat them, but the president of Turkey thought that when he make aggression against Syria by Turkish army, Syrian army will be aware and will not hit them. But our army take action and defeat them in the ground, and more hundred Turkish and Turkish soldier and officer were killed in Syria and arrested in Syria. That is why the president of Turkey went to Moscow, asked for ceasefire. This is on political way right now. For construction of Syria, now we look forward for our friendly countries. That is the right time for our friendly country, especially for India. As ambassador in Syria, our president instructed me, please call our friendly country like India to send their company to take share and to help us and to share our national resources with our friend here in India. Like we have in Syria biggest store of gas in the world, and we have many blocks of crude oil, and we have rock phosphate. We need our friend to come and to share with us to discover our national resources. Many Indians company went to Syria and joined the international trade fair, Damascus trade fair in Damascus, and they look forward how to move. But the problem for them, they need some support from Indian government because, you know, American sanction, they would like to take all the national resources of Syria, and our government refuse. We need friendly country. We have to cooperate together, how to find the way to collaborate together for our national resources, to share it with our brothers, with our friends here in India. Syria now in good position. We defeat all terror groups, and as I said for you, we defeat Turkish army now. They sign their defeat in Moscow. That is the first battle between Syrian army and Turkish army, who is the most strong army in NATO after American army. And now they couldn't do anything. Now by force they will pull out. Even American, if you come to the part of American existence in Syria near the crude oil, Mr. President of America, Mr. Trump announced we need share from Syrian crude oil. That is their aim. That is, they don't come for democracy. They came to take our crude oil, but our army refused. Will never allow any country involved on Syrian war to take any share from our national resources. We will defeat them, and we have to put our effort to protect our sovereignty and not allow enemy to come to the land of Syria.
Ambassador Abbas, you spoke about the the conflict with Turkey inside Syria, in Idlib, for instance. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but President Erdogan and President Assad were at one time friends and allies. This was before 2011.
Yes.
So what happened after 2011 that today they are literally sworn enemies? So what is Turkey's intention or motive in doing what it does inside Syria?
I'll tell you openly, some country accuse Syria because in Shia axis. Our president, he need to break this accusation against Syria. That is why we open a cordial relation with Turkey, as we have with Iran. And as we support Hezbollah as a Lebanese solidarity and resistance to liberate their ground, we support Hamas. But Hamas and Turkey accuse us and they hit us on the back. I don't know why. Because they got information and they got instruction from America to table the regime of Syria and to change the policy of Syria to, in order to be follower of American project in Middle East. Mr. Erdogan is a part of NATO. He cannot do anything. American tell him go, he will go. Tell him come, he will come. He has no independent policy. That is why American plan in Middle East to table the regime in Syria on favor of Israel.
Ambassador Abbas, let's talk a bit, if you will, about the situation inside Syria as we speak. For the benefit of our viewers who might not be familiar with what's happening inside Syria, could you explain to our viewers how much of, what are the conflict areas still brewing inside Syria, and what percentage of territory is controlled by whom in Syria today?
By your permission, if I can take the map, please, I will show you here. That is the map of Syria, understand? Now, our army control all Syria except this area, little, where is the, there is Deir Zor, controlled by our army, but the crude oil blocks here in the border of Iraq, understand, where is American army. And here, this is Idlib, look Idlib, if you can see here, that is Latakia. Now our army defeat Turkish army who umbrella for terror groups in Idlib, and we open the road between Latakia through Idlib to Aleppo, understand, to this area, and from Aleppo to Damascus.
So at the moment, the Syrian government forces have cleared all the places except Idlib.
Except not all Idlib. Part of Idlib under the control of terror groups and Turkish. army, and here little Turkish army and terror groups, and here in the north where
Kurds.
there is Kurds and American. We can defeat all those terror groups and those enemy who involved in the ground of Syria.
And one question about the Kurds. Now, the Kurds are spread across multiple countries in the region, including Turkey and Syria and Iraq. How does Syrian and the Syrian government view the presence of Kurds? Do you have a similar position as Turkey, or you have a different position vis-a-vis Kurds?
I will tell you openly, Kurds are Assyrian. And Syria open negotiates, discuss with Kurdish. 80% of them, they would like to come back under the umbrella of their government. But few of them are agent for America, funding by American, and they get benefit from America. Till now, they under the umbrella of America. But on generally, they are Syrian, and they would like to. In the end, they will come back under the umbrella of the government. But something I will give light for you in Idlib. Why Erdogan is keen for Idlib city? In Idlib city now available more than 50,000 mercenaries. Belong to Igor, to Chechnya, to Arab countries, to Asian country. They are like an army under the control of Erdogan. He used to make residency for them in this area. He cannot bring him to his homeland because they will create problem in his homeland, and he can get benefit if he can put him in this area to use him as an army against any country, against Turkey in the future. Maybe they will use him against Russia, against Iran, against any country against him in the ground, because his aims to revive autonomous emperors. That is why he sent his troops to Somalia, to Djibouti, to Libya, to Iraq, to Syria. He would like to revive this autonomous emperor, Islamic Khalifa. I'll tell you openly. That is why, if you see, he has cordial relation with Islamic State in the earth, and with your neighbor country, Pakistan.
And Ambassador Abbas, another issue of concern to some countries, including Turkey and the European Union, is the inflow or exodus of refugees, for instance. So, is there a solution that Syrian government can work out with the international community to house and rehabilitate those refugees?
Yes, I will tell you, Mr. Erdogan is a businessman. He use Syrian people as a material. He sell it to Europe or he remove it from Europe, and he is the seller of a human, of people. Understand? Not all those refugees belong to Syrian nationality. Some of them Afghani, some of them Iraqi, some of them Bengali, some of them, understand. But he opens the gate for them to go to Europe. For what? Because he would like to put sleeping cells in the future when he gets suitable time to revive autonomous emperor and to build Islamic state in Europe too. That is his aims. He opened the gate for them to make like that. He gain if he can do it. If he can't, he will get money from a European country and funding those terror groups in the ground of Idlib. In both way, he will get benefit, Erdogan, by this business.
And Ambassador Abbas, President Bashar al-Assad has spoken about reforms in Syria, political reforms, economic reforms. And in that context, he has spoken about drafting a new constitution as well as holding elections. So I believe elections, parliamentary elections are due in Syria?
Yes, Mr. Ramesh, our president announced for free election of parliament in May. It was in the end of this month, but it postponed because of this diseases of corona till the 20 of May. Syria has a constitution since that dependent of our country, and we make a new constitution after our issue in Syria, and there is a referendum for this constitution which get support from our people. In Syria we have parliament, we have election, and we have constitution, and the box of election will decide who will rule Syria. There is free election in Syria, not like other Arab country. For example, in some Arab country, I will not mention which one.
Ambassador Abbas, the other issue which is facing the world is the issue, as you mentioned, of terrorism. Now, does Syria still fear that the so-called Islamic State might regroup and revive itself in the region and bring more bloodshed to Syria and other countries in the region and beyond?
I will tell you openly, Syrian army defeat all the aims of Islamic State in the earth, not only in Syria. That is the last fight for Islamic State in Syria. But what I will tell you, now, for example, some of those ISIS shift their beer and came modern opposition under the umbrella of Turkish army. That is why you heard in the media many Turkish army were killed in the ground of Syria, because they involved together with terror groups in the ground of Syria. ISIS is defeated by Syrian army. On behalf of the world, we defeat all those terror groups.
And talking about Syria's relations with countries in the region and beyond, namely Russia, namely Iran, how do you see the relationship play out in the next few years? Because many people in the world today see Russia and Iran, deeply entrenched in Syria, and they do not see it particularly in favorable light.
Our relation with Russia is a cordial relation. And we had a military agreement between Syria and Russia since 25 years ago. And when we were under the danger, we called our friendly country to come. The Russian forces came to Syria by legal way. And the same for the Iranian experts. They came to join hand with Syrian army to defeat terror groups on the ground on Syria. And we are on the way to achieve the victory. In the end, now 90% we achieve the victory in the ground of Syria. Our relation with Arab world, I will tell you openly, it is a cordial relation, good relation, but under the table, because they scared to announce about our relation because of America, because American sanction, because America control the policy in Middle East. We have cordial relation with all Arab countries. We don't cut the relation with our brothers in Arab country, and we look forward to enhance this relation and to make it more and more active.
There is some talk of bringing Syria back into the Arab League as a full member. Is that are talks happening in that direction?
There is some discussion under the table for that. As they suspend Syria, they have to invite Syria to come. We are not too much keen, because what Arab League did for Arab issue in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria. But if they call us to come, we are ready to join Arab League.
In fact, some members, for instance, the UAE, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, I believe, have all reopened the embassies or in the process of doing so in Syria. So is that a welcome sign for President Assad and Damascus?
They used to open their embassy. UAE open their embassy there. Other, which you mentioned, they make renovation for their embassy, but the pressure of America led them to delay a little for other country. Omani embassy available in Syria, some European embassy available in Syria, and we are proud by our relation with our friendly country in the world.
Ambassador Abbas, you spoke about the US policies in the region and the so-called American project. Now, in that context, President Trump of the US has unveiled what he calls the deal of the century for Israel-Palestinian peace. But in that context, the Israelis and the Israeli government has spoken about annexing and treating Golan Heights as a part of their territory. How does Syria view that?
They can speak whatever they like, and we can do whatever we like. Our right will not forget our right. We are working by political way to turn back our land under the umbrella of our government. By political way, if not in future, maybe in military way. We will never forget the right of our Syrian people on Golan High, and will never surrender our land for Israel or for any foreign country in the region.
And Ambassador Abbas, one last question. When you look back at the past decade, what are the lessons that Syria can learn from the so-called Arab Spring? So in terms of the lessons learned and your experiences, what would you like to tell the viewers?
I would like to say all citizens in any country, they have to follow the instruction of his government. Any citizen, understand. And for example, as a Syrian, you have to be proud by our nationality. As Indian, you have to be proud by your nation, by your nationality, and etc. for other country. Don't believe the external intervention for any country, especially for colonialism state. Those colonialism state who occupied our land in the past will never forget what they did, and will never be confident with their policy. This is our tuition which we get from our crisis, and which we call Arab Spring. It was not Arab Spring, it was a bloody winter. We have seen the bloodshed on the street is imposed by America, and they change the secular regime by a radical regime, and when they don't get their benefit, they turn back to secular regime. What happened in Egypt and in Tunisia, and where is now the democracy of America? I will ask you this question. Who is the president of Libya? Where is Libya right now? Who is the president of Yemen? If that is the democracy, we don't need democracy. If we need democracy, we need to learn from Indian democracy only.
On that note, Ambassador Abbas, thank you so much for making time to speak to us at DD India. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. Thank you for coming. And we look forward also to enhance the relation between our country and your country.
Thank you, Ambassador Abbas. Pleasure talking to you. And that's a wrap on this special broadcast. But news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.